Welcome to Finbot Insights. Today, we are deconstructing the mounting warnings regarding the artificial intelligence market. We will explore whether the current AI boom represents a genuine technological revolution or is merely the prelude to a significant market correction. Our analysis begins with this direct and unambiguous statement from one of the world's primary financial institutions. This is not a vague prediction. It is the Bank of England's formal assessment that the current spending frenzy on AI may be building the conditions for a severe market disruption. With the official warning established, let us now examine the quantitative data that is causing such concern among institutional observers. We will now review the evidence supporting the claim of a potential bubble.
Consider this figure carefully. Detailed analysis reveals that the current market concentration in the AI sector is 17 times greater than what it was at the height of the dot-com era. This indicates that the scale of capital and speculation today exists on an entirely different level than previous market manias.
This next data point from MIT is particularly crucial. Research shows that only 5% of artificial intelligence pilot programs translate into rapid revenue acceleration for the businesses implementing them. This forces a critical question. If 95% of these projects are not delivering tangible financial returns, what is justifying the sector's extraordinary valuations?
And here is the metric that connects this trend directly to your investment portfolio. As of this year, companies in the AI sector have been responsible for a remarkable 80% of all gains in United States stocks. This means the health of the broader market, and by extension your own capital, is now profoundly dependent on the continued performance of this single, overheated sector.
Data of this nature is precisely what leads seasoned asset managers like Karim Musallam to this conclusion. The phrase retail-driven frenzy is especially significant as it suggests a market being propelled by popular sentiment and speculation, rather than by fundamental, underlying value.
A concentrated risk within a single sector might seem manageable. However, the primary concern now is how a potential AI bubble could pose a systemic threat to the entire economy. It has effectively become the one large concentrated bet that the whole market is making. Recent economic estimates indicate that generative AI now represents approximately 40% of the United States gross domestic product. When nearly half of a nation's economic engine is tied to a single, potentially overvalued technology, it creates a unique and profound vulnerability. A downturn in this sector would not only impact tech investors, it would risk harming the entire economy.
So what is fueling this extraordinary economic dependency? This insight from former Morgan Stanley investor Ruchir Sharma is quite telling. The top 10% of earners are now responsible for half of all consumer spending, which is a record high. This points to a fragile foundation for economic growth, one that relies on the continued prosperity of a narrow demographic whose wealth is increasingly tied to the performance of the stock market.
To provide a complete picture, it is essential to consider the powerful counter-narrative. There are influential and intelligent voices on the other side of this debate, arguing that the caution from institutions like the Bank of England is fundamentally misplaced.
Here we see the fundamental conflict at the heart of the debate. On one side is institutional caution, focused on market exposure and the immediate risk of a sharp repricing of assets. On the other side is the long-term optimism of tech industry leaders, who contend that even if a bubble were to burst, the process is ultimately beneficial for society as it clears the way for true, lasting innovation.
Now we must introduce another variable into this complex equation: political pressure. The White House has been urging the central bank to lower interest rates. The Bank of England cautions that such an action, if perceived as compromising the bank's independence, could trigger the very outcome it seeks to avoid: a sharp repricing of US dollar assets, creating significant global economic spillovers.
We have now reviewed the indictment from the Bank of England, we have examined the supporting evidence, and we have heard the conflicting testimonies. This brings us to the final consideration, the verdict that you, as an investor, must reach for yourself. Ultimately, the entire issue distills down to this single question. You must weigh the evidence presented and decide for yourself where your capital truly resides. Is your market position based on a sober assessment of technological value and genuine revenue potential, or is it being influenced by the speculative frenzy described by market veterans? If you found this analysis valuable, we encourage you to like this presentation and subscribe to Finbot Insights for future briefings on critical market intelligence. And finally, it is necessary to remind you that this presentation is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. You should never base investment decisions on information from this channel or any other social media source. Always conduct your own thorough research.